Hello again. We're happy to be back. I'm Ms. Shepherd. Today is Wednesday, April the 7th. Spring has begun. Things are growing. I hope in the gardens at your institution, you're starting to see stuff popping up as well, and that you are well. I'm Ms. Shepherd. I'm here with Ms. Ross. I'll let her say hello.
Hi, thanks, Ms. Shepherd. Yeah, just grateful to be back with you again. Whether you've been with us all these many weeks or whether you're new to watching these sessions, hopefully something we share today will be beneficial for you. But I'm just thinking of you all, wishing you well.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll run this session. This is the Buddhist service today, and we'll run it as we generally do. I'll go over and light the candles and incense. I'll come back, we'll put the shrine up on the screen. We'll do our universal well-being chant, and then go into a guided meditation. Following the guided meditation, we'll have a topic for discussion. And then if time, we'll end with another short guided meditation. Okay, I'll go light the candles.
Now let us chant the reflections on universal well-being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. When they act upon intention, all beings are the owners of their action and inherit its results. Their future is born from such action, companion to such action, and its results will be their home. All actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of such acts they will be the heirs. So with the ringing of the bell, we let go of the words and the sound of the chant and practice our meditation. And first we can just check in and see how the mind and the body are right now. Maybe the words of the chant or the feeling of the melody are still reverberating in your body and mind. Maybe you're still thinking about what you had for breakfast this morning, or maybe thinking about what you're going to do after this. You're just noticing where the mind is right now, how it is, and how the body is, what we're bringing to this meditation session. Not judging, just noticing. Then we can let that go and set an intention for this meditation. And I propose that your intention be just to set the intention to practice open awareness of just whatever the mind is noticing moment to moment. So the arising of something in the mind and then watching it pass away and something else come up. So notice if we can continue to watch that or if we get stuck on anything. So with that intention in mind, we'll bring our awareness into the body, our meditation posture, feeling the groundedness of the posture, the support of our chair or our bed or the floor, feeling the grounding, feeling the spine coming upright from there to make us alert, the head balanced on the spine, but allowing for relaxation. So feeling those 3 points for our physical body, the groundedness, the uprightness, the relaxation. And really feeling the body resting in the support, and the mind resting in the body. Now we'll go with that intention to just be aware of whatever the mind notices. Maybe it's sounds coming and going, body sensations, itching, throbbing, pressure, breathing, heart. Or maybe thoughts coming and going. The mind is just receiving them as they come, watching them come up and watching them fade away and something else come up. Thoughts, sounds, sensations coming and going, and the mind just watching. Checking in to see what the mind is doing. Is it still just watching things come and go, or has it gotten caught on something, a story, a physical sensation? Not judging it, but just noticing if that happens, and then going back to watching things come and go. Thoughts, sounds, sensations, rising, passing away. And noticing what the mind's paying attention to still things coming and going. Or are you lost in a story, something you're wanting or not wanting, or just spacing out? Where is the mind? How is the mind? Is it tight? Is it relaxed? Anxious? Sleepy? Not judging, just noticing. And how is the body? If you were caught on something, is there tension in the body or is the body relaxed? Not changing it, just noticing. And then resetting our intention to go back to watching things come and go. Thoughts, sounds, sensations coming and going. Checking in again with the mind, seeing if it's still just watching things come and go, or if it's caught in a story or a sensation. Noticing how the mind is. Is it calm or is it stressed? And noticing how the body is. And then resetting our intention to just stay with experience coming and going. Thoughts, sounds, sensations, arising, passing away. Noticing what the mind is paying attention to. Noticing how the mind is. Noticing how the body is. And practicing this way over and over again, you can start to see the habits of the mind, where it wants to go, what it gets caught on, and what the effect is of that on the mind and on the body. So we start to notice things that we hadn't really noticed before about the habits of the mind. What's helpful, what's not helpful. When we get caught in stories and what the effect is on the mind and body. We can do this practice in meditation and in our daily life. So we get to know ourselves better, what leads to more stress and what leads to less stress. So coming back to the sense of the mind resting in the body resting on its support, a chair, a bed, the floor. Just a sense of the whole body, how it is right here, right now. This mind, this body. It's like this. Can this be okay? So the ringing the bell ends the meditation, but you can just take a moment to reflect on, how the mind and the body received that practice. Did it lead to stress? Did it lead to ease? Did you learn something? Just anything you noticed, and then letting that go. And coming back to being aware of the shepherd and I here with you. So that meditation that I guided kind of leads into what I wanted to talk about today in our discussion topic, which is working with pain or other unpleasant states of mind. And I don't know about you guys, but this happens to me all the time, that there's something comes up in the mind and the mind gets caught on it. And then that getting caught on it just leads to a story which keeps feeding itself. And then I'm spinning out and I'm stressed out, and, all just because of maybe a sensation in my body or a thought that came up. So maybe that happened to you in your meditation. Maybe it didn't. Maybe you were able to just watch things come and go, and you could see what the effect is of that when you just watch things come and go and you don't get caught. Maybe it was relaxing, might have almost made you sleepy if there was no drama. But if there is drama or something that really catches it, a lot of times we really feel the effect of that in the mind and in the body. And so this is something I use in my practice quite a bit. And the reason I'm talking about this topic today is because last week I really got to work with this, and it was a physical pain that I was working with. But what I'm going to talk about also works with mental pain, the story of anything that makes us, have an unpleasant state of mind. But I had a really bad toothache and I couldn't get to a dentist. And so I just had this major pain, right there in my jaw, would go up in my head. And I'm like, how am I going to work with this? And then I remembered the teaching from the Buddha about pain and ways of working with pain. And there's a lot of different teachings on how to work with pain, but the one that I remembered was a sutta or a story about the idea of when we have physical pain, and again, this works for mental pain too, it's like being shot with an arrow. You feel the pain of the arrow piercing your body and some strong sensation, and that's really painful. It's a painful sensation in the body. And if we're not paying attention, or if we're not trained in watching the reaction of our mind will notice that pain, and then it will add what becomes a second arrow of pain, which is the story of, I have to get rid of this. And that's what I was working with last week with my tooth, right? The pain of the tooth would come up, really get strong. And then if I wasn't paying attention, the mind would spin out like, I have to do something about this. Like, can I put a cold compress on it? No, that makes it worse. Can I put heat on it? No, that makes it worse. Got to call the dentist. Oh, he's not available, and then what can I take? Can I take drugs? What can I do to get rid of this? And so there was just like second, third, fourth arrows that I was adding to that original pain. But if I become mindful and go, oh, you're adding more arrows, like just let go of all the story of I've got to get rid of this, let go of the resistance to the pain, and just notice like what's really going on, and get interested. I got interested in the sensation itself, like, oh, now it's throbbing, now it's shooting. Now it's subsided. It's not continuous like I thought. And so I could watch it. And then as I watched it, the tension in my body would relax, and then my jaw would relax, and the pain would actually get less. So the physical pain would decrease because I wasn't adding the mental pain that would make me clench my jaw, like I need to get rid of this, you know. So I could watch this happen. And that's what the Buddha was talking about. It's if you have access to the teachings, it's in the Samyutta Nikaya. It's 36.6, and it's called the arrow. And so he just talks about if you're not trained, or if you're not paying attention, when you have a feeling of pain, it feels like you're being pierced with an arrow. And if you're not paying attention, you'll add the second or third and fourth arrows of the resistance to it, the I have to get rid of this, the not wanting it, the desiring any kind of physical pleasure to overcome this pain that I'm in. And so you don't watch, like in that meditation, we can watch things arising and passing away. And a lot of times, like the pain, if we don't build a story on it and don't keep adding those second and third arrows, we can actually notice the pain isn't as continuous as we think it is. It's coming and going, throbbing, subsiding, coming back. And so that's what is being talked about in this sutta. So it's the pain, and then there's the resistance of the pain, which is the second arrow, which intensifies the pain. And so when I worked with that, like I remember waking up in the middle of the night and I would have been clenching my teeth. And then I wake up and I'm just screaming with pain, but I would just like lay there and go, okay, there's that sensation. Can you just notice the sensation, or be aware? Is there something else to be aware of? Like that's another interesting practice. Like we get so focused on paying attention to the pain, there's 1,000 other things happening in the body. Like, oh yeah, there's parts of my body that aren't stressed out. Or can I open to the feeling of spaciousness, of just awareness of just laying here and being supported on the bed. And so that's another kind of practice that we can do. And you're not denying that the pain is there, but you're not focusing all your attention on it and feeding it. And whether it's a physical pain or whether it's a mental pain of somebody did something to you, or you were slighted, or they insulted you, or whatever, there's that initial pain of that, what happened, you know, in the mind. But then we add more mental pain to it by making a story. This is happening to me, and this always happens, and this is the story of my life. And we can spin out and keep adding more and more arrows and inflicting more pain. Or we can just notice, like, oh, that story feels like this in the body, and get interested in the feeling in the body of how that story leads to tension. And then, is there any place in the body that's not tense? Or can I let go of some of this tension? Can I invite relaxation? So we can't make it go away, but we also can not feed it. And one of the analogies is it's like having a stray cat. You know, if you don't feed a stray cat, it's not going to keep coming around. But if you feed it, it's going to keep hanging around. So the same is true for our thoughts and our feelings. If we keep feeding them, they're going to stay with us. But if we don't feed it, it'll wander off and something else will come up into our awareness. And that's what you may have noticed in your meditation that we did this morning. And we can see this in our everyday life all the time if we're paying attention. So that's what I've been practicing with. I guess, Ms. Shepherd, how do you work with this teaching?
There we go. Sorry, I was muted. Very much the same. Thank you, Ms. Ross. So two things come to mind. So I've had a very similar experience, fortunately not recently, but I would say a year ago or so, I had an earache, and it arose in the evening, and it was a weekend. I can't remember, it may have even been a holiday weekend. So I knew I wasn't going to be able to get to anybody. And, you know, earaches like toothaches hurt. And I could feel it getting worse, and it was at night. And, you know, I tried lying on the other side, and that didn't work. And lying on the side of the earache was really painful. So eventually I couldn't lie down at all. So I decided, well, I'll just get up and I'll meditate. So I came into my meditation room and I meditated. And it was so clear that I just as you said, Ms. Ross, that the only thing, or the best thing to do, was to open to it, to be willing to actually feel the pain without the storyline, without the worry or the stress, basically without resistance, to just open to it. And what I found is I could use the breath to open to it. And I would try to like breathe and feel the pain and breathe. And then I would notice what would happen is I would start to tighten, resist, either, I could notice my shoulders start to get tight or something, and I'd know, oh, okay, I need to relax, I need to settle, stop resisting. That just really staying calm in that way, allowing that it was clear that it was sort of the fear of the pain and the resistance to the pain that was absolutely that second arrow you're talking about, that tightening up. And that the more I could release that and just know, okay, this is going to hurt, it's here. But the pain of it really is that first arrow, second one. The pain of it could be bearable as long as I wasn't also trying to hold it at bay, as I also wasn't trying to push it away. And I heard a very interesting teaching. I can't remember if I've already talked about this. If I have, I apologize, everybody. But a teaching the other day that talked about S equals P times R, where S is suffering. So the formula is that suffering equals pain times resistance. So let's say that you have an earache or a toothache, and the pain is an 8. So that's on a scale of 10. That's a lot. But if your resistance on a scale of 10 is 10, then your suffering, instead of just being 8, your suffering is 80. If instead your pain is 8 and your suffering is only 5, then your pain is just 40. If your pain is 8 and your resistance is only 5, then your suffering is 40. If your pain is 8 and your resistance is just 1, then your suffering is just 8. But here's the kicker. If your suffering is 8, so it hurts. I'm sorry, if your pain is 8, so your pain is at a scale of 8, but your resistance is 0, then your suffering is 0. Because remember that anything times 0 is 0. So, and that's really pointing to this second arrow issue, that, pain is pain. The body has pain. But what really sends us over, what feels unbearable, what is dukkha in the Buddhist teachings, is that second arrow, the one we're fighting against, the one we're trying to hold at bay, the one we think we cannot bear. And so this little formula is helping us recognize that when resistance drops to 0, then we can bear it. Then it's just, as Ms. Ross said, throbbing, heat, sharp, dull, contiguous, not. Then we're just experiencing what's arising, breathing, watching it change, experiencing it change, noticing how it gets worse, then it gets better, and we can bear it. We can stay with it. That night when I had the earache, I could feel the pressure building, and eventually the eardrum did burst, but it didn't burst. It just ripped, I think, and eventually I could feel some liquid draining down my ear. And my theory, I'm not a doctor, so this could really be crazy, but my theory is that it didn't burst and get a lot of damage in the eardrum. because I was able to stay calm, so that it actually just kind of slowly, the pressure was just too much, and slowly it just, opened a little bit. But because, when an eardrum bursts completely, it's much harder for it to heal. But mine could heal up afterwards when I did get to the doctor. And after a few weeks, it had healed and closed over again, because eardrums will do that as long as they're not intensely damaged. And my theory is that because I was able to stay calm, it could just sort of slowly release, crack a little bit, open a little bit in order to release the pressure, the fluid that was building because of the infection. And that was possible only because I was able to not go with that second arrow and just try to stay with it moment by moment. It wasn't pleasant by any means, but it was certainly, this was over many hours, and it was bearable. I mean, it really, not something I enjoyed, but excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry.
Bless you.
but so helpful to remember that there is a skill like that can be developed, because certainly in my life, there will be other times when I expect, if I'm lucky enough to continue to live, when I expect that there will be intense pain. And so knowing there are ways to deal with it, not easy, there might be times when I can't do that, but it builds confidence, trust, to know that there's skills we can develop, tools we can develop, and that's what the Buddha was pointing us to, and what Ms. Ross was sharing. So thank you.
Yeah, and again, it's not just the physical pain. First of all, if you're in pain, you should see a doctor if you can. We're not saying, that the meditation is going to cure everything. So just saying, but it cannot intensify it. That's the one disclaimer. But the other one is, so much of our pain in our life is mental pain, not physical pain. And so we can apply the same thing to the mental pain. I just think about the number of times in my life where somebody's looked at me and I was sure they were judging me for something, and that was an arrow, and then I started the whole story like, oh, I never fit in, and it's been like this my whole life, and then there's second, third, fourth arrows, and you all have the same thing, the not good enough story, it's always like this, fill in the blank, whatever. And that's what you can do in your meditation, see which story keeps coming up in the thoughts, and see what the effect is in the mind and the body of that story. So remembering that those stories are we can inflict physical pain on ourselves just by the stories that we tell ourselves. One of my favorite quotes is from, I think it was Mark Twain. He said something to the effect of, thousands of horrible things have occurred in my life, some of which actually happened, but meaning that the majority of them never actually even happened. So we create pain in our life all the time, just by our misperception and then building a story and hitting ourselves with arrows around that story. So play with this, like, is this really true? Do I have to worry about this? Do I have to believe this story? That can be a really fruitful practice in everyday life and on the cushion, so that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Any other thoughts about that or anything else?
No, absolutely. Just to remember that there are skills for that mental pain is pain, suffering is suffering. And, we resist the mental pains too. And how can we open to, oh, this hurts, without blaming ourselves, blaming the other person, explaining how it happened, explaining what you're thinking about what you're going to do next, all of that, to just be willing to be with what is actually present. Everything in our practice is about that. And it doesn't mean we're passive. It doesn't mean we don't do anything about it, but before we do anything, and before we decide whether there is anything that should be done and what should be done and how it should be done, first we have to really be willing to know it, understand it. That's the first noble truth, to understand suffering, to stand within it, to be there. And then, just as Ms. Ross said, then that gives us the ability to know, oh, okay, I better get in touch with somebody that I need some medical attention here.
So do we have time for another meditation, or?
Yeah, I think so. A brief one.
Yeah.
Let's do a
If you
brief
want to,
meditation.
take us out.
Yeah. So settling in to this moment. And as we just talked about, seeing what it would be to just know what's happening right now, especially through the body. What's present in the body right now? Maybe noticing what are called touch points, any points where there's some sensation of pressure, maybe in the seat, maybe your feet, your hands, noticing sensations around the neck and shoulders, allowing the shoulders to drop back and down, noticing the face, allowing the forehead to release, relax, noticing any tension in the jaw, pressure there, allowing that to relax. Noticing what's occurring in the eyes, in the eye sockets. So many active little muscles in that area. Seeing if that can relax, be released. Tension in that way, anywhere in the body, is really a form of resistance. So we begin noticing resistance in the body, letting the body sit completely at ease, but upright, letting the uprightness of the skeleton support the body so that the muscles can actually relax. And for the muscles to relax, the skeleton itself needs to be upright. When the spine is slumped and not upright, then actually the muscles have to do a lot of work. When the spine is upright, not rigid, but upright, and the skeleton supports the body and the muscles can be at ease. So by getting in touch with tension and releasing it, that's releasing physical resistance. But you might also check into, is there any mental resistance right now? Is there a sense of not wanting to be here or impatience? Can that be released or reduced anyway? How might you be fully and completely willing to be present with things exactly as they are right now. So establishing an intention, or at least a wish to be willing to be here. And then connecting into the body and the breath. Being curious to know the breath just as it is today, in this moment. Keeping an eye out for any little wisp of resistance that may have crept in. And as you notice it, doing what you can to release, to open, to soften. Really, the practice is about learning, how do I open and soften, widen to everything that is present in this moment, be it in the body or the mind. It doesn't mean we have to like it. What it means is that we want to understand it. We want to know it. We want to actually befriend it and learn about it. Because in the learning about it, we become empowered. As if it is something that is unskillful or causing us pain, in learning about it, we learn maybe how to not have it occur again, or have it occur less intensely next time. How to be with it. I think that's what the story Miss Ross told about her earache or her toothache, and I told about the earache. That's what we were learning, is how to be with it. Because those things happen to everyone. So in this meditation, learning how to be with this moment, this breath, just as it is right now. Just as it is, not building on it with our stories, our fears, our worries. Letting it be just as it is. Simply breathing in and breathing out. Feeling the breath refresh and energize the body. Becoming aware of the whole body, breathing. Giving yourself this moment of peace, this moment without resistance. Allowing resistance to be at zero, so suffering can be at zero. So we hope that you have many moments of zero resistance in the next couple of weeks. And we will look forward to seeing you then. Ms. Ross.
Yeah. Take care, everybody. And hopefully this practice can help you, whatever you're working with. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. You will.
Yes, happy spring. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.